What's up, and good morning, Tavis. How are you? Back on our routine. We're on a roll here. Episode 79,
Yes,
and we have an interview coming up. We got to interview some guys yesterday from Ranger Mineral and Land, and that interview will be coming up. And so we are definitely reaching out to more and more people. I've been going to some mixers. I've been getting out there mixing and meeting people in the business. I've got coffee with someone else next week that I think could be potentially a good podcast guest. So yeah, just trying to get out there and get the word out. We were talking to Wally about maybe how to grow the podcast. He's going to give us his excellent guidance. You know, it's kind of nice that one of your best friends is sort of a runs a company that manages national brands.
Absolutely.
Marketing,
a guy that knows what he's doing in the marketing world.
Yeah, you know, it's
like
not
legit knows what he's doing, not
right,
just,
right. You know, he's
YouTube
not putting together
famous
the
guy.
Yeah, he's not the guy in corporate who's in charge of accounting and PR that sort of gets on and makes a flyer for, you know, the birthday luncheon real quick. Like he does Jarritos. Like he came up with all the branding for Jarritos, I believe, right? And
I don't know. You know, they did a lot of rebranding for them.
Rebranding, maybe the rebrand.
Yeah.
But I know they're super involved with Jarritos. And then was it Ranch Water? It was one of the big seltzer brands. They did all the design, and then they actually sold to a huge company.
Yeah, the people that started the Ranch Water, he helped do the design for that, build that out, and well, the company did, you know, and they launched them and grew them. This was back in like 2016, 17. It blew them up, absolutely blew them up. And then they ended up selling to Anheuser-Busch, to Budweiser company. So
yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then he gets to hang out with Selma Hayek every once in a while because she's the Spanish language.
She was the Latin voice of Reliant. I don't think that's happening anymore, but
he ran her off
during a period of time. Yeah, I mean, you had Matthew McConaughey as the English speaking version, and then Selma was the voice on the Spanish speaking side. So
yeah. Well, Wally knows what he's doing, and so
do a lot of cool stuff. Yeah,
sure. So he's looking at the podcast, and we said, "Here's what we want. We want the Joe Rogan path." And we're looking at a 2-year timeline. And so he's hard at work in the lab trying to take us from where we are now, which is not quite Joe Rogan, to that point.
Not quite.
We've given him 2 years. And so,
not quite.
We really are making an effort to grow. We've had a lot of conversations about it. We have some good ideas. And so, but the biggest way we've grown so far is people that listen. And a lot of them are friends and family that care enough to listen on a regular basis and share our podcast with other coworkers and friends, and keep doing that. That it is really nice. Check us out on YouTube. I will say that we actually have more views on YouTube than we have listens on our podcast platforms. And we only post like, it's very raw video. It's not anything edited. So we need to actually do better there, because we've actually had a little bit of success over there, which is funny because I spend a lot of time editing the audio and no time editing video. Yeah. So anyway, well, unfortunately we are coming back today and we are talking about the fact that you have a house up in Aubrey that is not selling. And we're talking about, because you've had so many just fly. Like, I love doing your open houses. Like I did, Carrollton this last week, Verlaine.
Yeah.
And the feedback is just always great. And people just love the design. Oh man, this tile is great. Where'd you get this tile? And I tell him, I was like, these all feel the same. These all, like, he does this quality over and over, And so I've actually had a few people give me their email and say, well, hey, if he, we're not looking right now, but yeah, if he does another one kind of in this area, he'll definitely let us know. Mm-hmm. And so to know that this exact same quality and all that is done up in Aubrey, and just, it seems like no one is paying attention. I know it's frustrating for you. I'm not trying to bring you down this early in the morning, but
no, it's good. Look, it's nice. This is what's cool about our podcast, right? Because it's local, it's raw, it's real. We get on here every week and talk about what's going on in our personalize what's going on in business, and what's going on in the market. So, the reality is this is a perfect case of kind of missing the market, which nobody knew. And in real estate, we don't have crystal balls. So there's no way for me to know that it was going to take this drastic shift like it did between July and September, right? I mean, really, that was like the window of time in which I was renovating this property. I bought it in late June, and the comps I had in late June, even when I first looked at it in May, I had comps from April and May, and the comps were outstanding. I think we talked about it before, but one of them was listed at 350, sold in 7 days, and sold for 9,000 over the same exact floor plan. So that was my model, the same neighborhood, but that happened back in April. So then, I close on it late June. I do a lease back on it until August 1st. I take possession August 1st. We knock out the rehab all of August, go live second week of September, I think it was, or first week of September. And we go live. And it's just been like trickling in showings.
Pulling teeth.
And when we first went live, it wasn't a lot of competition. There was a few, some other properties, some lower, but there just wasn't a lot of inventory. Right now, it's saturated. It is so many properties up there, and they're not really. There's not a lot comparable in a cosmetic perspective. But what's happening is these unupdated homes, which all have the same subdivision, all have the same amenities, all have the same area, architecturally are all pretty similar to each other, are just dated homes that's going on the market about, $20,000, $30,000 lower than where I started.
Yeah.
And so then I've had to chase the market, right? And that's not anywhere you ever want to be. When people talk about, I'm not in a hurry, and we talk about it all the time, price and property right. There was no way for me to see what that number looked like. I did get an offer yesterday that was a low ball investor offer. And,
was that one that we were talking about?
I'd be losing money. Yeah. They finally came back and were like, oh, well, here, I've been out of town. Like everybody in the world has email. To me, I get it. I travel. I might have, a little bit of a gap depending on what it is. But I mean, everybody's got their phone
at the hotel.
Yeah. It's just like, you've seen my emails, you've seen my texts, you've seen, you said you sent me an offer.
That's,
here we go.
They're just trying to have a little bit of leverage. Here's what we need to do. Okay. So you're doing your flips. Well, I've gone full-time with real estate. Started showing up at the KW office multiple times, like you've told me to. One thing I need to work on is sort of my ability to be organized. And twice now I've showed up to the KW office thinking I'm walking into one meeting, and that happened yesterday. Because how they do a lot of their emails is on the calendar, it'll say today, and then they'll list off some stuff, and they'll say tomorrow, and they'll list off 4 or 5 things. And then, well, if I open it a day late, then my tomorrow is off. And I just don't. And so then I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, cool. Tuesday, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to go to that for sale by owner meeting. And then I just have it down. I even put it in my phone calendar. Hey, Tuesday for sale by owner meeting. So anyway, I showed up Tuesday for a meeting thinking it was for sale by owner meeting. Walk in. Nope. It looks like they're talking about open houses. Oh, cool. I'll listen to open houses. Well, it's the coaching class. It's launch and boost. There's about 25 people in there. And this is the KW built-in coaching class. Well, I like the guy teaching it, a guy named Seth Mills, I believe. And at one of the breaks, he said, yeah, come find me afterwards. We'll talk. And so we talked. And, one of my downfalls is I definitely need some accountability. I need structure in my life. The freewheeling, just wide open day entrepreneur life, I do not have that figured out yet. So when they were talking about, hey, we meet weekly, we have morning calls, we have assignments, we're going to go through contract, like they go through everything on how to be a organized, productive agent, a professional agent. And I was like, this is what I need. And so, I signed up for the coaching program, and They take a little piece of your first 4 deals, but it seems pretty reasonable. They actually give you a
Oh,
transaction
nice. Okay.
coordinator. They walk you through all your contracts. I'm like, man, I think this would be great. So
Yeah.
signed up for it. I'm really excited about it. They had only been going for a couple weeks, and so I'm not that behind on this cycle or whatever. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm really excited. Went up yesterday for a meeting, and it's the ALC where you
It was
have
the ALC
some of
meeting.
your
Yeah.
top agents
So
there, and
it stands for Agent
agent.
Leadership Council.
Yep, and they're talking through. You just hear high level agents talking through what they're working on in their business, and they're problem solving for each other, and you get to kind of sit back and you realize these people that are listing $20 million at a time. They've got it $20 million worth of listings in their basket. They're one of them super high level agent, and she was talking through one of her problems, and it really came down to, hey, I'll go put flyers on doors for my open houses. And like, why aren't you door knocking? Well, I have my kids with me. And they're like, what? And they said, you just need a door knock. And she's like, I'll just be honest with you. I hate door knocking. I don't like when people come to my house. I don't like door
Mm-hmm.
knocking. And so they kind of talk through this limiting belief of like, hey, this person's a super high level agent, and she's still struggling with the same thing I struggle with. It's like, I don't know if I want to knock on the
Yeah.
house. So I say all this to say is like, here's what we need to do. I'll do this for Shearwater up in Aubrey. If it's still around next weekend, I've got one booked this
Yeah.
weekend.
Okay.
But if we can plan ahead for next Sunday, I will go all out. I'll run the playbook. We'll make social media posts. I'll go knock doors. I'll put out flyers. We'll have some sort of hook to say, hey, we're giving out, whatever it is, drinks or whatever it's going to be. And we can run the open house playbook there and make every effort we can to show off that house. So let's work on that. I need the practice, and I think it would be a good thing. It's that way we can know we've put the best foot forward on that house that we can. So
Yeah.
maybe we can do a little price drop just to kind of
I
have
appreciate
a reason
that.
to do it.
I will say, and just to pinpoint, if anyone out there listening is similar, to Ashton, maybe they're starting a new career, maybe they're starting something new, you know, it tends to, people tend to kind of like put their nose down and grind and kind of hover over what they're doing and, try to figure it out on their own. Right. And when you network and you do show up, just like Ashton said, the aha for you yesterday is being there with a high producing agent to hear that they're real people, even though they've done really well. They don't have it all figured out. Everybody is still moving and shaking. And part of the reason you show up to these kind of events, or, we have the culture and the camaraderie at Keller Williams. And this is what's kept me there all these years. I'm an independent broker, and I could at any point in time just operate, Westbrook brokerage. And I've, been involved since 2009. But the very first mastermind I ever showed up to that I was invited to, Brett Caldwell had me there. And shout out, if you haven't listened to the Brett Caldwell interview on our podcast, please go back and find it. But Brett invited me, and I show up, and it was funny. Josh Shashong was in that meetup at the time, and Josh owns Myers, the Home Buyers. And he was young. I don't even know if he was 21 years old yet. I don't think he was. And Dan Harker was in the room. There was a bunch of big heavy hitters sitting around the table, and everybody was just talking. And they were talking about what was going on in the business and their marketing strategies and what's working and what's not working and what's their niche. And it was just mind blowing to me just being in that room and learning from other people and getting bits of information and being able to apply it back to what worked for
Yep.
me,
Yep.
And so
Yeah,
just
they have conferences.
being involved in that is just
Yeah.
great because it's easy to kind of get in your head,
Yep.
when you don't have something going on. Like right now, your stuff is kind of, you closed out your other people, you have one buyer, you've got some
Yep.
prospects you're working on, but just showing up and kind of being involved in that, you're more aware, and it motivated you now to come back and go, okay, what can I be doing? Like,
Yeah.
what are my strategies right now with what I have in my bag without spending a bunch of money, right? Because it's easy to get sold on some lead gen tool or something else from another company. And I guess I'm always looking at that. Anytime somebody ever brings me a pitch, obviously that's their job to sell that pitch, right? Like, how many things do we get hit up now with podcasts, right? And people hit us up all the time with wanting to increase our podcast or wanting to increase my Instagram page. And it's like, it sounds great.
Yeah.
But is this just a sales pitch for you to knock it off, get a
Sell
notch in
another
your belt?
class.
Or are you really dedicated to helping me grow this, right? Like, it's always a struggle to kind of understand that piece.
So. Well, and what sold me kind of, even in the back of my mind with the KW stuff, I was actually looking up a list, I don't know, last week or so, and it happened to be talking about the top coaching programs. And Tom Ferry is number one. He's one of the big ones out there, does huge conferences, and he's kind of an independent guy. He's agency agnostic. He works with people everywhere. And then there was another one, and then they actually mentioned the KW program, and they said that they have one of the best in-house training programs that you can get. And I just had that in the back of my mind. And so whenever it popped up, I was like, yeah, let's go. Because my phase right now, I guess I kind of liken it to, the kid who showed up at, kind of walked onto a college football team and like made a couple good tackles early on. Like, man, dude, you could figure this out, But then it's like, how do you go from that, the natural talent, and now you systematize your day, you figure out how to actually become a professional, and so where you can do it long term, and it's not just this one off. Like, wow, that was great, good job for you. Like, and that's really what I've had with real estate so far. I've done well. I've made some good sales. And it's based on me trying and grinding. It's not just all luck, but like actually having a pipeline and a system and all that. I've got to work on that if I know if I'm going to do this long term professionally. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, all that to be said, let's run the play up in Aubrey and let's see what happens up there. All right. Let's talk about a little bit of a market update. And turns out I'm not an idiot, and I figured out how to look at the same statistics you look at. And
well, I mean, you're the smart one, so I thought it just, you were looking at something way more advanced than I was looking at.
I found it, and I realized that a couple of years ago, I actually customized it, my view, and it just looked different. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is what he was talking about. And I went in and cleared out all my filters, and so we can talk about the same thing. But
you were too smart.
Too smart
with
the MLS.
You oversmarted yourself.
Too custom, just like my sound system. Had some problems yesterday with the interview. It's like, dude, you need to simplify your little microphone setup. But month supply, like we've been talking about, we're still at 4.6. Homes for sale has ticked down just slightly, and by just slightly I mean by about 300. But the graph is pointing slightly down. We're at 42,270. 10-year high is 44,000. We have average sales price is 470,000, 460 for the entire MLS. Collin County and everything that we look at is much higher. It's 500 plus, 500 to 550, depending on which little market you are in. And let's see, days on market, average days on market right now, entire MLS is 56. Collin County is 54. And the new statistics that Tavis brought to light as last week, we talked about the fact that in the last 7 days, we're looking at it now, 4,049 price decreases, which if you can do math, basically means right around close to 10%, probably like 8.5% of homes had a price decrease over the last 7 days, which is really nuts. New listing, 3,045.
Chasing the market, man.
Yeah, chasing the market. And 2,000 closed. We had 350 expired, 750 canceled, and so those are the numbers. Are the interest rates are right around 6.5. If you get a good program, you can probably. I was listening to something this morning. They can get you closer to a 5 if you have certain programs, but.
We touched on it earlier with Carrollton, but it did bring multiple offers this week.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and a couple of years has. If it still happens,
it still happens. That one actually had quite a bit of showing activity, but I think price point. It was under 350. There wasn't really a lot in that area of Carrollton for less than 400.
Yep.
And so I knew there was a lot of benefits going into it. And Carrollton's attractive, even though, we talked about it last week. I missed it on the school district, but that didn't seem to matter when it came down to it. So, and we actually had inspections. They came back with a very small little punch list last night, so I think it's manageable to work through it. So we should be pending today. I need to go and double check some of these things they're asking. But
well, good. I'm glad that one went well. Stuff. And the house that Allie was looking at over there in Bedford, that was a multiple offer situation too. So it definitely happens, especially in the first time home buyer realm, because you're competing with investors and first time home buyers.
But I loved it though,
because the investors aren't there.
You and I talked, and whoever our listeners know that I cringe when anybody ever competes with me with a dollar per foot methodology.
Yeah, you almost had to fight someone over the phone this week.
And so, one of these multiple offers that came through, the argument for sending me a low offer was the dollar per foot equation. So
don't get me started.
It didn't sit well, but the people that won, they.
Do you even listen to my podcast? Do you know who I am? Just start sending them links to podcasts where we talk about comp.
Hey, we've talked about this before. So, anyways, if he does listen, sorry, buddy.
He doesn't listen very well.
Yeah.
If he's coming to you with a dollar per square foot argument of like, hey, here's why we offered $325 when you're at $345, we're just looking at price per square foot. Well, you know what, dude? You lost out. Your client lost out because you allowed them to talk you into that, and you put an offer in that was no bueno, and now you are having to look around town, and you're going to get a lesser product. I can almost guarantee. So, all right, let's talk about a little bit of news.
Let's go.
So, in the news, there is a couple of national articles we'll get to, but in the Dallas Morning News, according to our friends at the Dallas Morning News, rent expenses take up more than half of the total income for 23% of Dallas households. That's crazy. Rent constitutes half of the expenditures for like a quarter of people in Dallas.
Wow.
Which has got to, that there's got to be a huge downstream effect of that, because, there's only so much part of the pie. And I mean, I guess you can go in debt. That's part of it. Been there. But, you're looking at transportation, you're looking at food, you're looking at entertainment. And so if a half of your income is going towards housing, now I guess you could make like, hey, move somewhere else, live below your means, whatever it is. I'm sure there's arguments, but I guess the sentiment of this is like, hey, some people just they're not really having a lot of choices here. And the average income is not keeping pace with the rent. And so it has to have impact on entertainment and restaurants and car dealerships and that sort of thing. So overall, it doesn't seem like a great statistic. But in other news, we've talked about it multiple times, is that we're way behind on apartment starts and we're way behind on housing starts. Yep. So the supply nationwide, but also specifically in our area, is well behind. And the third quarter building starts for DFW ticked down, I think 3%. So even though we're behind, they're not rushing around trying to just fill the coffers full of new homes.
Well, and here's a little bit of just insight too, and so in my teenage years, I lived in Rhode Island, right, the New England area. Home prices, what you got for your money was way more expensive than what you got here in Dallas, right? Even as a teenager, like it just the costs were, much more expensive for housing than they were here. But one of the things is you drive around, dealerships weren't very plentiful. Mm-hmm. People drove older cars, more
public transportation.
A lot of times it wasn't public
Not Rhode
transportation, but
Island.
yeah, not in Rhode Island there wasn't, but it was just a lot of, older cars, a lot of Saabs. um,
Dude, I
and
haven't seen a
they,
Saab in. That's funny you say that.
go up there,
I
man.
don't
They're
think I've
everywhere.
seen a Saab in a long time.
Go up there. Saabs and Volvos were very, very popular up
They
there.
must have quit making Saabs.
But they last for a long time, and they weathered the salt and the snow and all that. But a lot of people, it wasn't unique to it. It wasn't it wasn't out of the ordinary to see somebody driving a 10-year-old car. That was pretty popular in Dallas. I mean, somebody gets to be 2-3 years old in their car and they start wanting a new car. I mean, we have dealerships everywhere.
Yeah.
There's car dealerships everywhere. The amount of marketing that comes on the TV for dealerships, the amount of marketing that comes on the radio for dealerships is crazy. So the amount of money that people spend in their cars, and another point to that is look how many car washes there are.
Well, car washes, look at the private garages. That's a whole business here. I actually have a friend that has a private garage now, and we've gone there a couple of times. He's my buddy. That's we're doing the Hebron Car Show, and hopefully that's going to be coming up in the spring. But he's got one of these private garages, and he's like, "Man, I know you think this is nice, but I have one of the smallest units here." And that real estate, he actually bought it. It's doubled in price because the demand is so high. And I saw one of his neighbors. It's the slickest. It was so cool. It was unbelievable. Twice the size of his, all pimped out with just cool living room. And I mean, it's the ultimate man cave. But yeah, these are popping up all over the place. And then just the conversation that we had last night pitching this car show is, they run a car show every month, 170 or so cars. And a large portion of their cars are, I would say at least 25% of them is what we would consider to be supercars. They're McLarens, Ferraris, Porsches, high-end Porsches, Lamborghinis. And we were telling them, like, hey, it's very realistic. We have 350 spots. And according to any car show you go, a lot of car shows you go to now, just a normal Saturday one, it's not classic cars. It's supercars. And these cars are 150 to 400,000 easy. And they're just lined up. And I've made the comment before, is like, can you imagine spending $300,000 on a Lamborghini?
To me, they're not as...
There's 9 of them. Like you're one of 9 there.
They're so popular in our area and so popular at these local shows that they just you just want them over.
Yeah.
Like they're like, oh yeah, nice. But I mean, you grow up, even
you freak out.
Even in my early 20s, like I'd see a Lamborghini and I'm like, oh, I got to go follow it, right? Because you just didn't see them that often. And now it's a totally different world. Now
you see one now, you're like, there's
another one.
I prefer the Ferrari.
Yeah.
It's like, it's nothing. Like you go down to Legacy and watch them drive through. Yeah, it's funny. But I mean,
it's wild.
People spend inordinate amounts of money on their cars right now. But you could say the same thing about restaurants. Think about how many restaurants
that was my next. That was the next thing. That was the other thing, is like talking about our area.
Think about Grandscape. Just the idea of Grandscape.
And then we spent a lot of money eating out.
Grandscape exists to eat out and to shop. That's it. Yeah. That's why it's there.
So
and it is blowing up.
I think that we're tracking like we should as far as values and rentals and things like that. But it's a sticker shock for the majority of people's lifestyles, because cost of living has gone up so much, or cost of housing has gone up, to where forever it's always been, do you make 3 times the rent? Has been a statistic for, qualifying a tenant. And now that's not possible. Right. Yeah. Like that's not, most of my rentals are sitting around the, $2,400-$2,500 a month range. Right. So, getting into a young person or, a young family, that means that they need to be making $7,500 a month.
Yeah.
To qualify. And, we have a good amount of people that make that, but there's a lot of people that don't make that, especially if they're renting a property and they're a young family, or even if they're, single. That's a lot. So, now, like you said, it's now about half of that. That means that they're making about $5,000 a month, and 50% of it's going to the rent. So,
yeah.
But
all right, well,
that's not changing.
It's not changing. Get into try to buy a house. preferably from me, ride the equity up and get in the game. Stop throwing your money away with rentals. I will give you that advice if you can get into it. Interesting article in the Dallas Morning News that actually I remember seeing popping up on Yahoo this last week, but this specific article was it's titled "An Indie Bookstore in Collin County. McKinney Welcomes a New Neighbor." And it is a really neat looking bookstore that took one of the slots there in old downtown McKinney. That's kind of that shotgun style store that's really long, but old, really neat architecture. And this goes along with the national article that I found. And the idea of bookstores is coming back. Amazon for a while really ate into their business, of course. I used to love going to Barnes and Noble and I used to study there a good bit back in the day. I just love the idea of books. I don't read a ton but I just like going to bookstores and browsing, and so it's cool that a lot of these, as far as real estate goes, these spaces are being taken up by these independent bookstores. Now, tying into last week, I can't really see an independent bookstore taking over a bunch of Walgreens, although the space actually would work, but the soul is not really there. It's not that neat to have a Walgreens store, but an 1800s shop front in McKinney makes for a really cool bookstore. And according to the National Association of Independent Booksellers, there's such a thing, 200 new independent bookstores opened up last year. And so, yeah, I thought that was cool. I don't know if you've spent a lot of time in downtown McKinney, but speaking of money and influx of things and development, they've done a really neat job. I love their farmers market on a Saturday, but just that's probably the closest sort of traditional downtown square that you can get to in Dallas, if I'm thinking right. You can just go up there. Yeah, probably McKinney. And you can go there, go to the farmer's market, walk around, shop around.
I haven't been up there, but last time I looked, downtown Salina is doing a lot.
Oh, okay.
Too, to kind of make it a fun little square.
Yeah, I looked at a few houses over off of downtown McKinney one time. I had a client looking over there, and so we got to tour some.
That's a really cool pocket.
It's one of those things where one block, it's $1 million Victorians that have been renovated well, and a block over, like, I'm not sure if I want to be here. And it just hasn't quite all gone through that transition. And even getting to downtown, you drive through sort of a industrial, a lot of tire shops, that kind of vibe. And but then you turn the corner and you're like, wow, this is awesome. And then you do have just street after street of these late 1800s, early 1900s homes where people put real money into, and they've renovated. So if you have not spent time in downtown McKinney, it's for sure worth a visit. And tying into the real estate heavyweights, there's a restaurant there called Square Burger. I had a patient that was a waitress there. That was her retirement job. She was the host at Square Burger, and I went there once, and man, it was really good. So if you're up at McKinney Square, go to Square Burger, and then they have a couple good dessert places. Don't get me started.
Are the burgers square?
They are. They are the original Wendy's. That's Wendy's stole their Square Burger idea from this place in McKinney. I don't think that's true, but they should put that on the back of their menu.
Well, I didn't know if it was square for the downtown square.
Probably, yeah. I bet that's what it is.
But is the burger actually square?
Yeah. The actual burger was square. So.
The patty is square. Yeah. Got it.
Two more. These are national news stories. In California, 13% of agents in California had a sales transaction canceled, I guess since in this year, due to homeowners not being able to find insurance. And I bring this up because we have talked about this in Texas, and we have so many natural disasters as far as hailstorms. The coast, we have the hurricanes. We're not immune to fires, I guess. But hail specifically, severe storms and tornadoes. We have had the conversations. I think it is becoming more difficult to underwrite some of these policies. I don't know that I have not had a deal fall through because of insurance. I don't know that you have, but when I saw this, I thought, man, I could see a day where insurance policies are more difficult, and either you're having to separate out, like, hey, we're not covering a roof, or we'll do everything but the roof, or the roof has a different deductible or something like that. So this kind of raised a little red flag. It was like, man, I wonder if this is coming our way at some point.
Yeah.
But you've never had one fall through. You've never had one fall through because of insurance, right?
No, but I mean, I just got my renewal on my personal, and you usually get a benefit on a bundle, if you have your home and your autos together. Yeah, but we just had to make a shift, and I went ahead and got like a year policy for both vehicles and home. And typically, your home is a 1 year policy, but on vehicles, you have the option to do 6 months. But I don't see it going down.
Yeah, no.
And I had a little, I had actually 2 fender benders in the last 2 years, back to back, like in October for some odd reason. So knock on wood, we get through October this year without anything. But, so that's going to cause it to go up. And then my son is, young, 19, driving, even though he's been driving, for a couple of years now. Knock on wood, he's been, pretty clean driver record. But I did find out though, you get a little bit of a discount if you can prove that they are enrolled in college away from home.
Okay.
And they will revisit the rate status based on location. So they gave me, it was about $60 a month drop.
All right. I'll have to make that call
for his car being now in that zip code up there.
Okay.
So
I need to make that call.
Because he's not at home driving our vehicles or running the risk of driving our vehicles, it helped a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was something I learned this week.
But
both, I mean, essentially I still am paying more than I was, and we had to move things around policy wise to get the best of the best. I mean, to try to get the best options, for coverage and price point. Because if I would have just stayed where I was, it was increasing. A combination between both policies, auto and home, was going up to over $4,000 a year in increase.
Good night.
Yeah.
Gonna have to flip another house just to pay for it.
Yeah, it's nuts right now, man.
Yeah, so it's crazy.
What do? You
gotta have it.
But I mean,
you gotta have it, and you better
look at what just happened in Florida back to back like that. So
yeah, I know, hurricanes. Don't live in Florida. Everyone move here, preferably buy a house from one of us.
Yeah, I do think something's going to happen in the future with roof policies.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a big shift going with that, because you got every rich roofer out there.
Every roofer with
chases
an
storms and chases, and they just push
Ram
to get
TRX.
everything covered, and this coverage for roof policies is about to shift heavily.
Totally agree. And since my son is a loyal listener, slow down, Luke. If you're listening to this in the car, take it easy. Okay. One last news article, and then we'll get on to our crazy house of the day, which by crazy means amazing. Funny article out of Idaho, made national news. This is one way to make your way into the news. An Idaho realtor has offered a free, no commission offer to list a house. He will list your house for free if you are liberal and want to leave the state. And it's not going over well. Although it's probably going over well for him because he's making national news.
Oh yeah.
And I guarantee
all publicity is good publicity, right?
Every hardcore Republican around there is like, heck yeah, it's my guy. And now he's going to be the Republican-based realtor for, I'm sure, a while. So probably really smart on his part. And he didn't step in it with political affiliation is not a protected class. And so he can't get in trouble there. And it's also really odd to even get in any trouble because he's offering something for free. I think it's really funny. But he made national news, and I thought, well, this guy figured out how to put his name out there and get a lot of attention. And it's really not, it's kind of funny. It's not mean, really. It's just tongue in cheek of like, hey, I would prefer you not be here. If you want to leave, if this is part of your plan, I will help you do that. So anyway, all right, let's get to our crazy house of the day. I will put a link in the show notes for. So the crazy house of today, Tavis, do you have it pulled up?
Let me
get over here. And this house comes to us by way of Southlake. And let me tell you what, we look at some listings.
We're doing that one first.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I'll put another link up. There's a house out in Italy on the way to Austin. You drive through it, a couple decent truck stops. Before you get to West, there's a house out there that's for sale for, I think it's 7 million, right? What is the Italy one?
No, it's 16.7.
16 million. Good grief. It's a lot of acreage. And I will say this about the listing. A lot of acreage, house is decent. But even people who have a house for sale for $16 million, their agent did pay for professional photos, but the family, for whatever reason, decided to not clear off countertops. Yeah. And as you look through the pictures, you can see, the Keurig K-cups are on the counter. There's toothpaste on the counter in the bathroom. It's just cluttered. And I'm like, you're putting a $16 million listing out, and you couldn't even bother to thin out the closets a little bit, to clear off the countertops in the bathroom or the kitchen. I was like, man, this is nuts. But let's talk about our future. Sometimes we make fun of listings. There's nothing to make fun of. There's one small detail to make fun of in this listing, but this is 1469 Sunshine Lane in Southlake, Texas. It's on 3 acres, 3.5 acres. Great. $27.5 million. But let me tell you what, this place looks like a Cabo resort was just dismantled and brought into the heart of DFW. And the very first picture you see when you open up the listing is their pool area, which has a slide, a tube slide. But man, this house, it's gorgeous. And it's a little stark white for me as far as the decor goes. But I mean, they've got the wine room, a legit wine cellar, but it's not about that. Now, okay, a little funny side note, master bedroom. I don't know if you noticed this. Master bedroom, big one. They've got a king bed, and then they've got a queen bed, and they're made up separately and they're pushed together.
What in the world?
Yeah,
I didn't see.
Instead of going for the custom mattress, they're like, "Nah, you just stay over here." So then go through. So you got the master bathroom, which has a her side, and then it has a his side, and then let's get to the things that are important though. One odd side note: picture 25 is the faux picture of the Golden Gate Bridge above one of the bathrooms. It's painted into the wall. That's a misstep. Great garage. Tons of room for other cars. They've got a secondary kitchen. So kitchen number 2 is in some sort of downstairs area. Then you have, this is what makes it different. You've got a quote unquote rec room. It's got a grand piano. It's got a performance area, performance stage. It's got air hockey. It's got pool table, foosball. It looks like
a resort.
It looks like a resort.
And it looks like a main event.
A main event. It's done well. This is not cheesy. It's done extremely well. And go back a few pictures. That recording studio that's out in the rec room, you can kind of pick up a guitar. It's tied into one of the most legit recording studios I've ever seen in a house. It looks like a professional. This is some sort of musician that puts a lot of money into their equipment. This has got to be $1 million worth of sound of equipment. Beautiful, amazing. Now, who's going to buy this and go in there and actually use this? I guess that's up to them to decide. But then you got a full indoor basketball court. You've got an outdoor basketball court. You've got a gym that rivals most apartments, at least. Then you have the unique thing I've never seen before. You've talked to me about putting these into some of your houses, Tavis. So this is proof of concept. They have a trampoline room. Mm-hmm. They've got a padded trampoline room, which is unbelievable. Have you ever been into a house with a dedicated
I have never
trampoline
seen that in a
room?
house ever. Yeah, I've never even seen a picture of it until today, and I was looking at it going, "Wait, what is that?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Holy cow! It's actually
trampolines."
It looks like it. What do you call that? Like, what's that extreme place? The trampoline park.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's trampoline places around town. Then you've got kitchen number 3. You come upon kitchen number 3 with a Sub-Zero setup. And I guess that's sort of down in the game room. And then you see...
Oh, that's downstairs. Yeah.
It's got to be downstairs. But next picture, what is that? Oh, that's a bowling alley. They have a bowling alley. And then they have the rack where you can just roll it down there. The handicap. I can't make fun of that, but it's the handicap rack that... I mean, they got all the accessories.
They have it built in. So you can just stick down there and roll it down.
They clicked all the option boxes. They just said, I'll just do it all. They have an elevator, of course. And then you have the aerial view of the outdoors, which has this is 3.5 acre property. And the back half of it is the yard. And it's all turf.
And it's turfed.
Now, not turf like it was last week, where they got all the seconds and surplus squares. They went with the same color. They decided let's just go ahead and do the same color. We'll do it all at the same time.
It does.
Looks nice.
It has home base.
Yep.
It does look like home base, and it's got the running bases there. It looks like.
Yep. And then you've got a little ramp that a golf cart can come down into there. You got a soccer goal. This house has it's like a resort. Now
it is.
I will say the one downside of this place is it's $27.5 million. So a little unattainable right now.
Yeah, that's the downside.
I'm surprised if you're going to get it for a midterm rental. This is the monthly rents on the midterm would be.
Those palm trees look fake.
They are fake. I think they are fake.
They're
from the Palm Tree magazine, and this would be a tough Airbnb to make cash flow or midterm. But whoever has this, I also do like the look of the pool. It's very symmetrical. I love this whole. This is all thought out, and then they put 2 chairs and a little table. It's like super centered. Some people don't care at all about pictures, like the Italy house. They just put toothpaste out.
Did you mention the square footage yet?
No. What is it?
31,234 square feet.
31,000 square feet of amazing.
Hey, it's less.
It's in Carroll ISD. In case you want to buy a $27.5 million house and send your kids to public school.
What does that make it per dollar per foot? That's actually a pretty good dollar.
Very
per
reasonable.
foot
$880.
Think about it.
That's not crazy.
$880.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's not crazy. All right. Well, that's our fun house of the day. We will continue to bring these. I will put the link of this in our show notes. That's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We do this every Friday. We also have a great interview coming up with guys from Ranger. So please pay attention to that. They're talking about mineral rights, mineral deeds in Texas, and it was a whole new area of real estate that I have just recently learned about. I think Tavis was pretty new to it, and really good conversation. So that'll be coming up Tuesday. If you have not, find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube. Check us out there. Send this episode to somebody. Tell them I think you're going to like it. And we would love you forever. And until next time, have a great day.